Welcome. My name is Miss Paige, and I am a health educator at the Poe Center for Health Education in Raleigh. And normally we offer a ton of different classes on everything from bullying and substance use prevention to family life to nutrition and physical activity to gardening and cooking and many, many more. And we have an awesome site in Raleigh, and we also travel statewide to visit schools on site. But as I'm sure many of you know, a lot of things have changed recently due to COVID-19, and so we are making some changes to how we present some of our material. Since we can't come to you in person, we're going to come to you virtually. So today, I'm going to be doing a physical activity lesson for y'all. So I'm taking some of the information that we have from some of our different physical activity lessons that we do at the Poe Center, and I'm going to kind of condense it all down and end with a really fun Poe Center fitness challenge from me to you. One of the most important things that we talk about in all of our physical activity lessons is how many minutes of play every day youth should get. So, maybe you already know this. If you do, awesome. But it is recommended that kids get 60 minutes or 1 hour of play or exercise or movement time every single day. 60 minutes or 1 hour every single day. And a little tidbit for any parents that are watching this too, right? It is recommended that adults get about 150 minutes of exercise per week, which comes out to about 30 minutes per day for 5 days of your week. Now that we know that we need to make sure we're getting at least 60 minutes of exercise every single day, the question is then why, right? Why do we need to get that exercise every single day? There are so many reasons that exercise is good for us and important for our health. One, it helps increase our energy, right? Maybe you remember back to when you were in regular school, right? And we were like getting into the middle of the day and maybe you were getting a little bit sleepy, having trouble paying attention, and then you had gym class or recess, right? And you come back in and all of a sudden it's easier for you to pay attention again, right? You feel more awake. Exercise can really help give us more energy. Also, or two, exercise is really important for helping make sure that we sleep really well. Sleep is a really important part of staying healthy, getting enough sleep every single day. And if we get our 60 minutes of exercise during the day, we'll sleep better at night and we'll get better sleep, which will help us stay healthy. It's also really important, number three, for fighting off germs. The more times we get our 60 minutes of exercise every day, the healthier our bodies are going to be, and it's going to be easier for us to stay physically healthy and fight off those germs and not get sick. In addition to that, exercise is really important for helping us have strong bones and muscles, right? These are two really important systems in our body, our skeletal system and our muscular system. And exercise is incredibly important for making sure that they stay healthy and they function correctly. So we want to make sure we get our 60 minutes every day for that. Also, exercise really helps keep our brain healthy, which is so important, right? Because we're all learning and growing and developing every single day, and our brain needs to be as healthy as possible for us to do that successfully. And then the last thing, and a really important thing that I want to talk about under our current COVID-19 circumstances, is that exercise can really help improve your mood. And I don't know about all of you, but I'm definitely starting to feel a little bit cooped up in my home, maybe getting a little bit frustrated, maybe grumpier than I normally am, right? And actually, exercise can really help with that. If you take a few minutes to go for a walk or get in a little bit of a workout, right? You will feel so much better after that. We talked earlier about how exercise is really important for our muscles and our muscular system. But we want to make sure that our muscles are ready to exercise before we jump right in. And so one thing that we can do to help make sure that they're ready is what we call stretching. I'm sure that's something all of you have heard about before. But there are two different kinds of stretches that I want to focus on. They are called dynamic stretches and static stretches. These two stretches are used in two different ways. So, one of them, dynamic stretches, are the stretches that we want to do before we start our exercise. There are things where we move through quicker, we're not holding each stretch for quite as long, but we're using them to get our muscles warmed up and ready to go. And then, after we exercise, we'll do what we call static stretches. And these are stretches where we're holding the positions for a little bit longer. This helps our muscles really cool down after the exercise. So, before we start any exercising, we talked about how we want to focus on dynamic stretches to get our muscles ready. So, the first one I really want to focus on is really looking at our lower body, at our hips and our hamstrings and maybe some of our ankles, because maybe you, like me, have been doing a lot of work from home or school from home during COVID-19. It's been maybe a lot more sitting than normal. And so we may notice that our hips are a little bit tighter than they normally are. So we're going to focus on really opening those up a little bit to start. So the first one, we're going to be down on the floor just a little bit. So you notice I have a mat here. Or if you have carpet and you want to do it on carpet, I just have this here to kind of protect my knees, since we'll be down on our knees for these. The first one though, we're going to take a step back and we're going to come down onto that back knee. Our front foot is going to be firmly planted flat on the ground. We're going to go hands up and kind of just lean forward into that front foot. This is what we call a Samson stretch. And this should be really focusing a stretch on that back hip. If you're not feeling it there, you can go ahead and squeeze that glute just a little bit on that side, and that may help, okay? And then we're going to go ahead and just rotate back and reach for that front toe. This should stretch our hamstring or right behind our knee here, and this is what we call a runner stretch. And remember, because these are dynamic, we're going to go ahead and rotate forward and back to stretch our hip and our hamstring about 5 to 10 times on that one side. Then we'll go ahead and switch and do about 5 to 10 times here on our second side, okay? So that's a nice dynamic stretch we can do. Another one is what we call a leg swing. So for that, you may need to hold on to something. Maybe if you have questionable balance, I know my balance isn't the best, so I'm gonna hang on to something for now to help with this. In this stretch, we're just gonna hold on and we're gonna swing our leg forward and back. Nothing crazy, just enough to get it moving. And what's gonna happen is when it's in this front position, this should get, again, a stretch through our hamstring. And when it's in the back position, we're gonna bend our knee a little bit. We should feel a bit of a stretch in that hip again, okay? So about 5 to 10 on that one side, then go ahead and switch sides. Give me 5 to 10 on that other side. So that's a nice dynamic stretch we can do. And again, those are really opening up our hips and maybe our hamstrings. The other thing we want to try as a dynamic warm-up is what we call ankle circles. We don't do a lot of work with mobility in our ankles normally, but this is really important for our general muscular and skeletal system health. So again, if you need to hold on to something for balance and just on one foot, we're going to go ahead and rotate our ankle maybe 5 to 10 in one direction, and then 5 to 10 in the other. And we'll go ahead and switch sides. We're just trying to draw, you want to think about maybe trying to draw a circle with your big toe in the air, as big a circle as you possibly can. Good, and those are some good lower body dynamic stretches. All right, so now we're going to do a little bit of mid-body and upper body dynamic stretching. So, the first thing we're really going to focus on is our core or our trunk. And this is also going to include that lower back, which, if you've been sitting a lot for work or school from home, may be bothering you. Right, so these are some good stretches we can do for that. So the first one is what we call the bend and bow. So the bend part of that, we're just going to reach down towards our toes. And while we're down there, we're just going to try and relax everything, okay? Just bend over. And then the bow, which we're going to lean back. If you want to put your hands right above your glutes or in your lower back for support, that's a great idea. And we're just going to bend back through there. And we'll go back and forth with our bend and bow a few times. Good. All right. Another mid-body stretch we can do, it's a nice easy one, it's just a trunk twist. So we'll have our feet nice and firmly planted on the ground, and we'll just twist through our trunk. Just twist. Okay. So about 5 to 10 of those to get through our core and mid-body open. Moving up to our arms, these ones get to be a lot of fun, right? So we really just want to do a lot of dynamic movement with our arms. So we can do some skier arms. We're going up and down 5 to 10 times. You can add in some opposites there just to keep things kind of fun. Opposite arm up and down. We can do some nice big open and give ourselves a hug. Some nice stretches here. And then last, we can do some arm circles. Put our arms out to the sides. Kind of start small and just then make those arm circles bigger and bigger. Good. And then the last thing is that we could maybe want to open up our neck just a little bit. If, like me, you've been looking at your computer screen a lot more than normal, we really want to go ahead and just get some movement through our neck. So we can do some nods up and down, some side to side. And then also maybe just some head rotations and neck rotations. We want those to be nice and easy. Don't stretch those or take those too far. Just give yourself a chance to put your neck in some different positions and stretch that out a little bit. So those are some good middle body and upper body dynamic stretches pre-exercise. So we talked a lot about our dynamic stretches that we would do before we start our exercise. So now I'm just going to take some time to walk through some exercises that we can do while we're at home. I know a lot of things may have changed because of COVID-19 related to how we normally exercise. Maybe our gyms are closed, our sports teams aren't meeting like normal, but there's still a lot we can do within our own homes and the area around our homes. So thinking about some of the lower body exercises we can do, a great one is a squat. So you want to have your feet a little bit wider than hip distance apart. We want to make sure when we're squatting down, our knees track over our toes. They're staying out nice and wide. We want to avoid our knees collapsing in like this because that's not really healthy or good structurally for our knees. So we want to make sure they stay nice and wide. And we're just going to squat all the way down and all the way back up. Think like there's a chair behind you that you want to sit back down into. And that'll get us in a nice squat position. If those seem too easy for you, you can make them a little bit harder by adding some weight, right? So maybe if you have some of these things in your own home, like a kettlebell or a random dumbbell that you've had for years and you don't know why, you can use that. If not, we have another option. We can use this, something like an old milk jug, and fill it up with some water or sand and use that to add weight. But either way, we're going to take that weight, we're going to make sure we're holding it nice and close to us in front of our chest, and we'll just squat up and down holding that weight. And that's called a goblet squat. So that's one option. Another really fun way to make squats harder or more interesting is what we call a Cossack squat. So we're going to have a nice wide leg stance, wider than we would normally stand or feels comfortable standing. And what we're going to do is we're going to shift our weight to one side. And as we do that, the toe on the other side is going to kind of rotate and point upwards. And we're just going to pop down into the bottom of a squat there and switch back and forth. Okay, this will give us a nice stretch through our groin maybe as well. And just a really fun, different way to squat. Another great leg exercise that we could do is a lunge. Okay, so for this, again, you may want to have a pad or maybe do this on carpet to protect those knees. We're going to take a nice big step forward, come down till we have about a 90-degree angle on our front knee and our back knee, and then stand back up. Okay? And again, if we want to make this a little bit harder, we can add that weight, holding it in the same way, and lunge up and down holding that weight, just to kind of mix things up a little bit. So those are some lower body exercises we could do. We also want to think about maybe some upper body stretch or exercises that we can do. So one of our main ones, I'm sure everybody knows and has done, is a push-up, right? So we're going to come down into our plank position. We want our hands to be right directly underneath our shoulders, not super out wide and not way in front of us, right? We're going to hold that nice tight plank, squeezing our abs and our quads. We're going to come down and push back up. Okay? Now, this is a pretty difficult movement for a lot of people. I know for me personally, these are very hard. So there's a lot of ways that we can make these a little bit easier and still get the work. So the first thing is we can do them from our knees, right? We want to hold that same position through our middle body and core. We still want our hands right underneath our shoulders, but we can have our knees down on the ground. Same movement pattern, but a little bit more manageable. If we're looking for something even slightly more accessible to us than that, is we can do what we call tricep push-ups on a wall. Now I don't have a wall out here, so I'm going to use this to kind of demonstrate. But let's say if there is a wall, we would put our hands up on the wall here and kind of do our push-ups like up against the wall. So with this, I'd have my hands right here on this bar, and I would just kind of push down and back up. Okay? The whole time, no matter which one we're doing, we want to think about keeping our body in a nice, tight, straight line by squeezing down on our abs. Another section of our body that we can get some really good strengthening exercises for done at home is our core or our trunk. So this is like our abs and our lower back and middle back. So one thing that we can do, and we kind of already addressed this with our push-ups, but I'll just review it really quickly, is a plank. So coming down into that same position we would for our push-up and holding here. Just keeping your body nice and straight. Try not to let your hips sag down or pop up. So holding in a nice straight line through here. So that's one. Another one, really popular, is the sit-up. All right? So coming down into our sit-up position, and I know often we see in like old movies and gym classes, we have our feet up and somebody's holding on to our feet and we're doing our sit-ups. I actually want to encourage you to try, if you want, to do those with more of a butterfly leg stance, because that takes your hip flexor out of the exercise and really focuses in on your abs. So we'll lean all the way back and then sit up and touch at our feet. So just some nice sit-ups. Some ways to do these a little bit differently, get good ab work in, but in a slightly different way, would be maybe a flutter kick. So we're going to lay down. We can use our hands underneath our lower back for support. We'll push our feet out, bring them up about 6 inches off the ground, and just do small, short, quick flutters. Okay? Again, try not to have your feet up here in the air. That's not quite the same movement. We want to stay nice and close to the ground down here. And then one more, if you are like super awesome at ab movements and you're like, these are all real easy, go ahead and try maybe a V-up. These are a lot more difficult, right? So we're gonna be laid out on the ground. We'll start all the way stretched out, and we're gonna come up and make a V with our body, okay? If you want to try these, but maybe you're not quite there yet, we can do these more in a crunch position, right? So, just some fun little ab exercises that we can try. All right, and then the last section of types of working out or exercise that I want to mention are like cardiovascular movements, those things that make us maybe breathe a little bit harder while we're doing them, or make our heart beat faster. So, there's a lot of things we can do for this. Some, a little bit on a lower impact, might be a jumping jack, right? So, just regular jumping jacks. If that bothers your knees, you can kind of do more of a low impact jumping jack. Get that same idea. Another one might be everybody's favorite, the burpee. So if you've never done one of these before, this is like a full body cardiovascular movement where we're going to go all the way down to the ground, and then we're basically going to stand ourselves back up with a little jump at the end for fun. So we'll head down to the ground and then jump ourselves back up. Right? So that's a burpee. Some other options for things that don't involve any equipment might be, for example, walking up and down or running up and down the stairs in your house. Maybe careful with the running for safety reasons, but walking up and down those stairs. Or if you have space near where you live, going for a walk or a jog outside. It's a great way to enjoy nature, especially now that it's getting nice out in North Carolina. But also get in some good cardiovascular exercise. And then one more thing that we may not think about, right, is jumping rope. Now, for any of you that have kids at home, you may have jump ropes lying around, so this may be a fun thing to try to bring us back to childhood a little bit. But go ahead and try and jump rope. You'd be surprised how cardiovascular taxing this is and how much you start to breathe hard as you go. So just some regular jump rope, right? And if you are like a jump rope master and you want to kick it up a notch, right, we can try what we call double unders, where the rope spins around twice for every single time that you jump, right? And so we can try that if we right? So that's going to get our arms to move just a little bit faster. But again, those are all things that are going to be cardiovascular based. They're going to make our heart rate go up, they'll make our breathing a little bit faster, and those are some good examples of that type of exercise. So now that we've done our exercise, we've done our workout, if you think all the way back, remember to the beginning, we said we want to end with some cool down static stretching. So static stretching means holding those stretches for a little bit longer. So some of the ones that we did at the beginning, like the Samson stretch and the runner stretch and maybe the bend and bow, those ones we can do again and just hold them longer this time. But I'm also going to show you a couple new ones that we can add in at the end for a nice cool down. So one of those is going to be what we call Spider-Man. So it's going to start similar to Samson. We're going to take a nice step forward. We're going to have 1 foot behind us. And we're going to bring our hands down to the inside of that front leg. Okay? So this should give us a nice stretch through our front and back hips. And if you feel like this is a pretty comfortable position for you and you want to try and take the stretch one step further, you can try and come down to your elbows on the inside of that front leg. Like this. And we want to hold that stretch for maybe about like 30 or so seconds per side, right? And that's why it's static, because we're holding it, we're not switching around. Another one that we can do kind of in a similar position is what we call a pigeon stretch. So again, we're going to bring that foot forward in front of us, and we're going to actually bring it across to make almost like a figure 4 on the ground, right? And we're going to let ourselves kind of sink down into that, okay? If you feel like this is pretty difficult, you can bring that foot a little closer to you, and that might make it a little bit more comfortable. Or if it's really easy, you can push that foot farther away. And it's going to get down the outside of this front leg, okay, and into that glute. So that's a nice one too. And again, we're going to hold that for about 30 or so seconds on each side. And I'm going to show you this one again on this leg, just so you can see what this front leg is doing, right? And we should feel that stretch down through the outside of our leg and into our glute. And we're just going to sink down into that. You may also feel it a little bit in the hip on that back leg, depending on where you might be tight. If this feels really comfortable and easy for you, you can again go ahead and fold down over that front leg. Good. Another one while I'm down here that I'm going to go ahead and show you. So we call a child's pose. So this is something, if you've done yoga before, you've probably definitely seen this one. We're going to sit back down onto our knees. We're going to reach, we're going to fold over our knees, reach our arms forward, and just relax. And that's one that you could hold for a full 1 to 2 minutes if you wanted to, if it's feeling good and you're feeling a nice stretch through your shoulders and through your lower back. And then the last thing is just a couple for our arms that we want to point out. Some of these again may be familiar for you. We may want to we can take one arm, bring it across our body, and use that other arm to kind of pull it towards us. Not too hard, but enough that we feel a stretch. And again, hold for about 30 or so seconds per side. And then also one last one, and this will get a little bit more into our tricep as well as our shoulder, is we can bring one hand up next to our head and reach down and try and touch between our shoulder blades. And then we can use our other hand to kind of pull gently against that elbow to get a little bit of a deeper stretch. And again, holding that for about 30 or so seconds per side. So those are some good static stretches, or stretches that we're holding for a longer period of time, that we can do after we exercise to help our muscles and our body cool down. So now that we have talked about how much we need to exercise, the benefits of exercise, lots of different stretches and methods of exercising. Like I told you at the beginning, I was going to be bringing in a challenge directly from Poe to you, an exercise challenge. So it's going to be what we call the deck of cards challenge. So really all you'll need for this is a deck of cards. And the way that this works is we assign a movement to each suit in the deck. So for example, and then we pick through the cards and do the movements as they come up. So for example, if spades means push-ups, then if I pick the 6 of spades, that means I have to do 6 push-ups. And we continue to pick until we've gone through the entire deck. What we usually do for this, what I'm gonna do for my challenge for y'all today, is that any face card just means 10, okay? So, and this is something where you can do this same challenge over and over again with all different movements for the different suits anytime you want, and it keeps it light and interesting, and you never know what's coming, so it's kind of a fun way to get some exercise in. But we're gonna issue an official Poe challenge version of the deck of cards workout, okay? So for this challenge, we're gonna have hearts mean push-ups, spades mean sit-ups, clubs mean squats, and diamonds mean jumping jacks. And then for fun, anytime we pick an ace, fun, right? Anytime we pick an ace, we're gonna go ahead and do 10 burpees. It seemed a little bit unfair for Poe to issue a challenge to everyone and not have someone from Poe do it first. So I'm gonna be the very first person to complete the Poe deck of cards physical activity challenge. And I have here to help me my husband. His name is Coach Hugh, as he is also a fitness coach on the side. But he's going to be over here picking my cards out of the deck and letting me know what I have coming up next to help kind of speed me along through this, and then maybe also cheer me as needed as I go through. So I'm going to go ahead and give him my glasses to hold while I do this workout. And we are going to go ahead and get started. You ready?
You ready?
All right.
All right, we're going. 3, 2, 1. 9 push-ups. 4 jumping jacks. 14 minutes, 58.73 seconds.
All right, 14 minutes, 58 seconds, just under 15 minutes for me. So now I challenge all of you to go do the Poe deck of cards challenge. If you want to send us a message and tell us what your time is, see if you can beat me. And remember, you can scale any of these movements. You can do push-ups from your knees. You can do a different type of sit-up. You can change up what you do for the aces if burpees don't work for you. This workout has so many options to keep it interesting and fun and different. So thank you to Coach Hugh for cheering me on and telling me what came next. Thanks to y'all for coming along with me on this physical activity adventure, and stay safe and healthy.
We hope you enjoyed this mini lesson. The Poe Center for Health Education now has online programs available. We've converted some of our most popular programs to an online format. We promise the same great content, same enthusiastic staff, and engaging activities, all that make the Poe experience so valuable, unique, and effective. To book a program, please visit our website or call us today.